Hello, my name is Louise and welcome to my channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We are doing the Big Brother simulator and I intend to do it with some Beatles people. So first what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the size. We have 10 house guests and I think I'm going to bring it up to 15 because I like that number. And we'll increase it or decrease it if we need. But before I do that, let me explain. So this is a simulator of a reality show called Big Brother, where I think in the show it's like 18 people are locked in a house for like 3 months, and they have to do competitions and vote each other out. And the last one standing gets, I think, $500,000. I think, at least that's what it was when I watched it. I think it's increased to like 750,000, so 750,000 or whatever. But yeah, when I watched it, it was only 500,000. But anyway, yeah. So I wanted to do it with the Beatles today, and maybe some other fandom people. Um, and let's just see how it goes. And I hope you guys like this because it's a little different. All right. So first, I'm gonna go to Edit Cast. And as it goes on, I'll try to explain it more for those who have never watched the show. So we're going to go to text only. And we're just going to add as many Beatle people as we can. And then increase it, like the number of people, if we need. Alright, so first we're going to do Paul McCartney. I'm going to add Linda East. Oh, not Zeast. Eastman. Oh, come on. Man. There we go. Alright, then we're going to do Yoko Ono. And then we're going to do John Lennon. And then we're going to do Jane Asher. Batty. Nope. Boyd. And by the way, I'm using my old iPad that I don't really edit on anymore, just because it has more space to record a long video like this. George Harrison. Ringo Starr. Maureen. Oh, Starkey. Let's add Julian Lennon and Brian Epstein. Oh, there we go, Epstein. Add James McCartney, Paul's son, and we're gonna pretend that they don't know each other. Or should we? I don't know. I guess as you watch, I guess you can pretend it how you want. But the way I usually play this, because I've done this before in my own time, I usually pretend that they don't know each other. Stella McCartney. Change that to female. And oh, by the way, the names that I'm deleting are from the show, from just various different seasons. So yeah, I'm gonna add Mary McCartney, and the last girl is gonna be Heather Mills. Alright, so we have Paul, Linda, Yoko, John, Jane, Patty, George, Ringo, Maureen, Julian, Brian, James, Stella, Mary, and Heather. Heather Mills, because I thought that'd be interesting for drama, because, you know, it's based off a reality show. Anyway, we're going to submit that. I think that'll be enough. And now, we're going to go to Profiles. And I might do this at a later time with different fandoms that I'm in. But yeah, so we're going to do just these 15 for now. Alright, so General, and we're just going to go through these one at a time. Brian Epstein, I think I'm going to put at great for, like, generally being good at competitions. Physical, I think I'm going to put him at great as well. Endurance, I think I'm gonna keep him at average, and then mental quiz, I'm gonna put him at beast. Alright, George Harrison. I'm gonna put him at beast, great at physical, great at endurance, and then beast at mental quizzes. Heather, I'm gonna put decent for general. Physical, I'm gonna make her a beast, because if you know anything about Heather, especially after the divorce with Paul, she's in a bunch of different, like, extreme sports. So I'm gonna put her at beast for endurance as well. And then mental and quiz, I think I'm gonna put her at decent as well. Alright, James McCartney, Paul's son. I'm gonna put him at average for general, decent for physical, and endurance terrible. Oh, oops, sorry, I did that to Jane on accident. I'll have to fix that, but yeah, terrible. And I apologize, James, if you ever watch this. Nothing personal. It's just more for fun and vibes, if you know what I mean. And then mental, I'm gonna say great for mental. Give him a little boost up. Alright, so Jane. You know what? I think I'm gonna have Jane be the middle ground person, meaning I'm just gonna have her average everywhere. Alright, John Lennon. I'm gonna have you at great at general. And I think I'm gonna have John be just the great guy overall. So he's just great. He's not the best, but he's pretty damn good. Actually, no, he's gonna be great at everything, but then a beast at mental stuff. Alright, and then Julian, I think I'm gonna do the opposite. So he's beast at everything, except for mental. He'll be great. So it'll be right there. Alright. Linda. Alright, so this is gonna be interesting. I think I'm gonna put Linda. I think Linda will be the one that's just all great. I think that'll be good for her to do. And again, if you ever want to do this and set it as how you want it to be, the website is called brantsteel.com. But you don't even need to look that up. You just type in Big Brother Simulator and it comes right up. So yeah, if you don't like my choices for how I'm setting these guys up, feel free to do it on your own. Anyway, Mary. I think I'm gonna put her at average at everything, except because she's Paul's daughter, I think I'm gonna put her at beast for mental. But everything else is gonna stay average. Alright, Maureen Starkey. Okay, this one's hard because I don't really know anything about her. So I think I'm gonna have Maureen be the person that's just decent at everything. Alright, so next is Patty. And I think what I'm gonna do is just alternate them. So average, decent, average, decent. And like I said, this will make more sense as I go on. Alright, so Paul, I'm gonna have him be at average. He's gonna be a beast. And then he's gonna be great at physical stuff, great at endurance, and then a beast at mental stuff. Ringo, I think he's gonna be average, except for mental stuff. He's gonna be decent. Like, he's not that good at that stuff. And I'm only doing that because of, if anybody's watched the Beatles cartoon, he's kind of depicted as an idiot. Not saying that Ringo is one, but that's how he's depicted in a lot of the media. That's why I'm doing that. Okay? Alright, Stella. Usually when I do this, I usually have Stella be the exact same as Mary in this. So I'm just going to have her be the same. And then Yoko, I'm going to set at terrible for everything. And again, nothing personal. It's just for fun. Alright, now this is other attributes. This actually means more to me in the game, because it actually depicts how they react and they get voted, and how the others will vote, and etc., etc. Alright, so we're gonna go through the list again. Strategic ability, Brian, I'm gonna put you at mastermind. Loyalty level, I'm gonna do trustworthy. And so the loyalty level, actually I'm gonna explain right now. So if they're in an alliance, which is like they're working together, If they're loyal, they're not going to vote someone from their alliance out. Does that make sense? And I guess if anybody's watched the show Survivor, it's a very similar show. So if you don't know what Big Brother is, but you know what Survivor is, you kind of do know, if that makes sense. Um, Anyways, yeah, so that's what loyalty means. Social skills is kind of their ability to just be nice and plan with people and talk. And I think I'm going to make him a social butterfly. And again, if you forgot, I'm doing Brian Epstein, the Beatles manager, for this. And this is going to be interesting too because I've actually never done this with Brian before, so this will be interesting. And then temperament, I think I'm going to have him always calm. He just seems like a pretty chill guy. Alright, so George Harrison, I think I'm going to put him at mastermind, unbreakable, like he will never break your trust. The social aspect, I think I'm going to put George at decent. Mainly because he's known as the quiet Beatle, so like, in my head, he's decent because he'll do it if he has to, but he's not gonna talk to every fucking person, you know? So, yeah, he's good if he needs to be, but he's not gonna talk to everybody. And then he's always gonna be calm, of course. All right, Heather Mills. She is gonna be great. Her loyalty is gonna be backstabber. Her social skills are gonna be decent as well. Mainly because I've heard that she's a very awkward person from people in Paul's family and from other people just in the celebrity world that know her, so she's gonna be decent. And then temperament, extreme rage. And once again, nothing personal, it's just for fun. Alright, so James McCartney, um, I'm gonna put him at terrible for this, strategic, because I picture James as being someone who gets kind of overwhelmed by the game. Loyalty, though, he's gonna be unbreakable, like, he's not gonna backstab. His social skills are gonna be terrible, and his temperament, he's usually calm. Maybe not always, but typically he is. Alright, Jane. I think, I'm gonna have her the same, as she was for the competitions. I'm just gonna have her be everything average. Alright, so, John Lennon, I'm gonna have him as a mastermind. I think I'm gonna have him as average. Like, I kind of want him to be someone you can't really read. So, and then I think I'm gonna have his social skills at average, and then his temperament, yeah. So everything else is gonna be average, but his strategy is gonna be top notch. And I think Julian, I'm gonna do the same, but his temperament is always calm. So it's like the opposite. All right, Linda. I think I'm going to have her average everywhere except for the loyalty. She's going to be unbreakable. And then the temperament, she's always calm. Alright, Mary. Alright, so I'm going to have Mary at trustworthy. Like she will do her best to not hurt her alliance members, but she might if she has to. And then she's going to be great at socializing and usually calm. Maureen, this is another one I'm just gonna do untrustworthy, decent, and easily angered. So she's gonna be the average, just decent all around. And yeah, that's what I did for the competition as well. So I'm just gonna keep it like that. And Patty, I'm gonna have her be terrible, kind of for the same reason as James, just she'd be overwhelmed with it. And then she's gonna be trustworthy. And then, her social skills are gonna be great. Like, she just talks to everybody. She just wants to be friends. And then she's always calm. Paul is gonna be a mastermind. He's gonna be... This is gonna be interesting. I'm gonna actually have Paul be a backstabber. And then... Actually, no, that's too mean. I'm gonna have him at untrustworthy. Yeah. And then his social skills are great. And then his temperament, always calm. Ringo is going to be average, unbreakable, social butterfly, always calm. Stella. So for Stella, what I'm going to do is almost the same as Mary, but she's going to get really mad. So, we gotta look. Okay, so average strategy, trustworthy loyalty, social butterfly, extreme rage, just pissed off. And then I'm gonna have Yoko, terrible at everything. Alright, so that's all set. Okay, so, alliances. These are the teams. They're not required to work together, but usually in the start of the game, they do. Alright, so, and if I check this box, the permanent box, the game won't remove people. And so for this one, it's going to be one that doesn't remove, and it's going to be the Beatles. And it's going to be Paul. And then you can change how loyal you want them to be. So Paul's going to be 9, which is, like, I'm not going to break you guys up. John is going to, I'm going to put him at a 3. And why is Stella grayed out? What the hell? Okay, I don't know. Right, I'm not included. I just did that because I wanted to see why her name was grayed out. Anyway, Ringo's going to be an 8. Almost like Paul, but not quite. And then George is going to be a 1. Alright. Number 2 alliance. I'm going to name it, oh, not Furl. Girl. Power. Not powder. Power. Girl power is going to be Patty. I'm just going to put her at average. Stella's going to be a 7. Yoko's going to be a 3. Linda's going to be a 3. No, Linda's going to be a 4. Heather is going to be a 1. Jane is going to be a 7. And Marine's going to be a 5. Oh, not Julianne. Oops, where's Mary at? And then Mary's going to be a 9. Girl power. And I'm going to keep that not permanent because I kind of want to see who leaves. Alright. Number 3. I'm going to call this one Wings. It's going to be permanent. And it's going to be all the McCartneys. And they're all going to be 9s. Like, they're all going to try to back each other up. And I'm even going to have Heather Mills in this, just because she was married to him. And you know what? I'm going to have Jane in it, too. Why not? But Jane's going to be a 2 to this. But everybody else, and actually, no. Heather's going to be a 1 as well. Like, Heather's going to be, like, in it, but, like, mainly just so she can get further. Nothing more. Oh, wait, nope. I need Linda to be a 9. Alright. Alright. And now number 4. And I'm going to name McLennan. And it's going to be a final 2 deal. Oh, McLennan. Oh, no. Should I? No. I'm not going to have it in capitals. No. McLennan. Permanent. Paul's going to be a 9. And then John's going to be... I'm going to put him at a 6. Because Alliance 5 is also going to be a final 2. And then it's going to be Yoko. Oh. I'm going to just call it Give. Oh, not the Beast. Peace. Chance. So yeah, for anybody wondering why I'm struggling to type, I'm using my iPad mini. And so it's like harder for my clubbed fingers to do it. Anyway, that's going to be permanent. And then... Oh, yeah, no, I need number 6. Only Love Remains. Nah. Only Love Remains is going to be permanent. Come on, permanent. And it's going to be just Paul and Linda. Number 7. I'm going to call it Cavern Club. And it's not going to be permanent, but it's going to have George at a 7. Brian at an 8. John at a 6. Paul at an 8. Ringo at an 8. And I think that's everybody in that. Okay, Okay, this one I'm gonna name isn't. Oh, wait, no. I was gonna say, isn't it a pity? But I gotta do this. All things must pass. And it's gonna be a final two alliance. Here, come on, permanent. Mark it permanent. Thank you. It's gonna be a final two between Patty and George. Alright, alright, this one. Loving Flame. I'm gonna not have that permanent, and it's gonna be a final two deal with Heather Mills and Paul. And it's gonna be kind of shaky. So Heather's gonna be at a 5, and then Paul's gonna be at a 3. Alright, number 10. Octopus Garden is gonna be Ringo at a 9. Jane Asher at a 6. And Marine at a 9. Oh, wait, no, not Mary. No, Marine. Marine at a 9. There we go. Alright, did I just want to make sure I got a final two. Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. Actually, I'm gonna have Julian in this, but he's a 2. So, like, it's more John and Yoko's thing, but Julian's involved, kind of. Alright, I think that's all I'm gonna do for that, because that's gonna take forever. Okay, now I'm gonna get into the game, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. I apologize that took so long, and actually I'm gonna do one more thing. So these are the house events, just random things that happen, and there's one that I always remove because it's just pointless. It was stupid in the show as well, and its banner flies over the backyard. It was dumb in the, like, it didn't do anything in the show either, so I removed that one. Okay, so go back to week 1. There's also popularity in relationships, but you gotta do it like, so Paul to everybody, and then, like, yeah, it takes ungodly amount of time. So I just kind of like the simulator do its own thing with that. Anyway, the last thing I'm going to put on is reasoning. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready. And again, I'll explain more of it as we go on. Okay, so these are the alliances, the teams, if anybody forgot, which I probably did because I'm awful at remembering. Alright, so the Beatles have 5 strength. And it's George, John, Paul, and Ringo. Girl power is Heather Mills, Jane Asher, Linda, Mary, Maureen, Patty, Stella, and Yoko. Wings is just all the McCartneys. McLennan is just Paul and John. Give Peace a Chance is John, Julian, and Yoko. Only Love Remains is Linda and Paul. Cavern Club is the Beatles and Brian. All Things Must Pass is George and Patty. Loving Flame is Heather Mills and Paul, and Optimus Garden is Jane Asher, Maureen, and Ringo. Alright. Wheel of First Impressions. The house guests will take turns spinning the Big Brother wheel of first impressions. The wheel will land on 2 adjectives, which the spinner will then assign to 2 of their housemates. The rest of the house guests will then vote on which of the 2 selected players they would prefer as the head of household. When only 2 players remain in the competition, the eliminated players will vote between the 2 for the first head of household. Alright, so here I'm going to explain what the head of household is for those who have never watched the show. So if you win this competition, you are safe for the week. But under the condition that you have to nominate 2 other players to be kicked out instead of you. So that's what the head of household does. And with that knowledge, let's see how everybody did. Alright, so Maureen finished last. I guess nobody likes Maureen. Yoko Ono finished 14th. Nobody likes Yoko. Heather Mills finished 13th. Nobody likes Heather. Paul McCartney finished 12th, but it says under here for reasoning, Paul McCartney tried to throw the challenge. Alright, that's interesting. So, if Paul tried to throw that, because it's basically based on first impressions, I'm trying to think, like, how that would happen. How would you do that? Would he just be like bragging like, I wrote Let It Be. I wrote Yesterday. Like I was in Wings. Like I'm the more successful person. Just being a dick. All right. Um, Jane Asher finished 11th. Patty Boyd finishes 10th. Ringo Starr finishes 9th. Brian finished 8th. Mary finished 7th. George Harrison finished 6th. Julian Lennon finished 5th. Stella finished 4th. The competition comes down to Linda Eastman, John Lennon, and James McCartney. And I'm also doing this video because I thought it'd be kind of a fun way to do fan fiction. Because like what I just did with Paul throwing the challenge, I kind of came up with my own fan fiction, but also it's my computer doing it, or iPad doing it, I should say. So I don't know. I just thought it'd be fun for people to watch. Okay, so John finished 3rd, Linda finished 2nd, and James is the new head of household. That's interesting. That's interesting, because if anybody remembers how I signed him up, like for his strategy, I didn't make him that good. Because I kind of had it in mind that James would be kind of overwhelmed. Alright, so let's see. And so how the nomination ceremony works is they have like this big circle thing that they put on a table, and then they pass it around and there's keys in it, and 2 people don't get a key. And they get like these necklaces that have their name on it, and if you don't get the necklace, you're nominated. At least that's how it was in the old show. Now it's like a touchscreen thing, iPads and all that crap. But the way I pretend in my brain when I'm doing this is the old show. So I actually imagine them having the little spinny wheel with all the necklaces inside. Anyways, Julian Lennon, you are safe. And then also in the show, in the old version, so if we were watching it, Julian would grab his key necklace, put it around, say, thank you, James, spin it randomly, pull one, say the next person, and then so on and so forth. Anyways, Stella, you are safe. Mary, you are safe. Jane, you are safe. Heather Mills, you are safe. Brian, you are safe. George Harrison, you are safe. Paul McCartney, you are safe. Yoko, you are safe. Maureen, you are safe. Linda, you are safe. And John, you are safe. James has nominated Patty Boyd and Ringo Starr. James says, Patty Boyd, I do not like you at all, and also Ringo Starr, I dislike you. Patty Boyd is unfazed, Ringo Starr is unfazed. So they didn't really react. And fun fact, I don't know if this is still a rule, but there was a rule where if you nominated someone in Big Brother, you couldn't use the excuse of, I don't like you. You had to come up with a legit reason why this person affected your game and why you wanted them out. At least it was a rule. You can maybe say that now. I don't know. I actually stopped watching the show, I think in 2015. Yeah, because they started getting all weird with it, having like too many twists. But this is based off just the basic game. Alright, veto selections. Alright, so now I'm going to explain what the other competition is. The power of veto has the head of household and the 2 nominees and 3 other people picked at random to compete to possibly save whoever is nominated. And if they do choose to save someone who's nominated, then the head of household has to replace somebody else. And that somebody else can't be themselves, can't be the person who won, and can't be the person who was saved. Alright, so, and, oh, I clicked that wrong. But yeah, and I apologize if this is taking forever. This one, week 1, is going to go the longest because I have to explain everything for people who don't understand. But as we keep going, it'll get quicker. And I'm just going to tap all that and read this. Alright, so James McCartney as head of household. Patty and Ringo as nominees will participate in the power of veto, and they will also draw 3 people at random. James picked George Harrison to participate. Patty picked Heather Mills to participate. And Ringo Starr draws Maureen Starkey to participate. Woohoo, that's interesting. Alright, power of veto competition. Gnome drop. Each house guest has a suspended gnome attached to 3 lines. One at a time, players will answer multiple choice questions by cutting a specific line attached to a target player's gnome. If the house guest answers the question correctly, the target player's gnome will fall, thus eliminating them from the competition. The last player remaining wins the power of veto. Maureen finished last. Alright, so she just lost. She didn't throw it or anything. Patty Boyd finished 5th. Heather Mills finished 4th. The competition comes down to James, Ringo, and George. 3rd place, Ringo Starr. George Harrison finished 2nd. And James won the golden power of veto. Oh, damn, James, you're doing good. You know, it's funny. I actually forgot how I set him up for competition. I don't think I made him that good. That's interesting. I don't think I made him that good. Yeah, I think I put him at, like, decent or something, or average at least. Alright, so the veto ceremony is when the winner gets to decide if they want to save people or not. And anyway, they get to say speeches, as it says here. Patty Boyd gives a short speech to get the decision, and Ringo Starr says a casual speech. And a casual would be like, save me, I don't want to lose, thank you. So it's kind of like that. Alright, so let's see what James does. James does not use the power of veto. James says, I won't be upset to see either of you leave. James has negative relationships with both nominees. Patty has no reaction. Ringo Starr has no reaction. The final nominees are Patty Boyd and Ringo Starr. So proceed. Alright, house events. So this is just random crap that happens in the show and in the house. So, due to the mental stress of the game, Ringo Starr isolates himself from the rest of the house. While having a conversation, Maureen Starkey accidentally makes an inappropriate comment. The pressure of the game gets to Mary McCartney, leading her to have a public emotional breakdown. Paul McCartney tells a heartfelt story about why he needs the money. That is so... Why can I hear that in my brain? Like, I need this for blah blah blah. I'm so sorry, Paul, if that's offensive, but I can just hear that in my mind. Alright, eviction voting. So this is when the people who have been safe the entire time get to vote. And the head of household cannot vote unless it's a tie. So Ringo Starr and Patty Boyd face eviction. They give speeches about why they should stay. Patty, I am a loyal player. Ringo Starr makes a joke for the speech. I can hear that too. Oh no, that's gonna go bad, I think. But let's see. Alright, Brian Vote says, I vote to evict Patty Boyd. And then the reasoning, Brian is in an alliance with Ringo Starr. George says, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. George Harrison has a better relationship with Patty Boyd. Heather Mills, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. Heather Mills considers Ringo a greater overall threat. Jane Asher, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. Jane Asher considers Ringo Starr to be a greater overall threat. John Lennon, I vote to evict Patty Boyd. John Lennon is in multiple alliances with Ringo Starr. Julian Lennon, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. Julian has a better relationship with Patty. Linda, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. Linda is in an alliance with Patty. Mary, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. Mary's in an alliance with Patty. Maureen, sorry. Maureen voted to evict Ringo Starr. Oh no! Oh, wow. Maureen considers Ringo a greater overall threat. Paul, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. Well, Ringo's going home. Sorry, Ringo. Paul considers Ringo to be a greater overall threat. Stella, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. Stella is in an alliance with Patty Boyd. And Yoko, I vote to evict Ringo Starr. Yoko considers Ringo a greater overall threat. Damn! By a vote to 10-2. Ringo Starr, you have been evicted from the Big Brother house. Ringo Starr wishes everyone good luck and leaves the house. And there's the memory wall. And yeah, so after someone leaves the house, they all like hug and cry and so on and so forth. And then in the house, there's like, in the kitchen, there's like this big like iPad thing that has pictures of everybody, and their picture grays out once they leave. And so there's that. Alright. Now we're going to see how the alliances are holding up as we go into week 2. And now that everybody who's been watching this entire video knows how the game works, it'll go a little bit faster now. Okay, so the Beatles are 4 strength with George, John, and Paul. Girl Power has everybody. Wings has everybody. McLennan has everybody. Give Peace a Chance has everybody. Only Love Remains has everybody. Cavern Club, I think, is missing somebody. All Things Must Pass has everybody. Loving Flame has everyone. Octopus Garden has everyone. Alliance Events. Paul McCartney leaves Cavern Club. Ooh. I have no idea what that's gonna mean. Alright, Bull in a China Shop for HOH, Head of Household. The guests stand on a long rotating log holding onto a bull's head attached to a rope. If they fall or let go, they are eliminated, and the bull will swing down and smash their china-filled china cabinet. The last house guest standing will become the first head of household. In addition, the first 3 house guests to fall can open a box to get a prize. Alright, so I actually remember this competition because it's in like season 15 or something from like 2014 or something. So I actually can picture this in my mind. And so yeah, they're on this big spinning thing and they're holding on to like bull heads. I don't think they're real. I think they're like fake. But yeah, they're bull heads and it's like really slippery because I think they have like rain and like gooey shit being sprayed on them as well. And yeah, their feet slip and all this kind of stuff. And I remember in the show, a lot of people threw it at the beginning because it's endurance. You have to try to last as long as you can, and they would fail it on purpose to get those prizes. So I can actually like picture this one in my head because yeah, the competitions are actually from different seasons of the show. Because this is just a basic simulator of the show. And also, I just want to say, I do apologize if I'm stumbling over my words, but I thought it would be better for me to read this than have AI do it or something. But anyways, let's see how everybody did. Yoko finished last. Mary finished 12th. Brian finished 11th. John finished 10th and tried to throw it, so he probably... Well, actually, he wasn't the first 3, so he probably made a deal with somebody. And that's another thing, too. During these endurance ones, the players will talk to each other and make deals, like especially if they're getting tired or something. Anyway, Stella finishes 9th. Maureen finished 8th. George finished 7th. Paul finished 6th. Patty Boyd finished 5th. Linda finished 4th. Competition comes down to Julian, Heather, and Jane. Oh yeah, and I just wanted to say, the reason why James isn't mentioned is because if you were head of household previously, you can't compete until this next week is over. So the next week, as long as James doesn't go home, he can play in week 3. Alright, so 3rd place, Heather Mills. 2nd is Jane Asher. And then the new winner, head of household, is Julian Lennon. Alright, let's see what Julian does. Stella, you are safe. Mary, you are safe. John, you are safe. Yoko, you are safe. Jane, you are safe. Paul, you are safe. Linda, you are safe. Oh, sorry, I did that wrong. Come on, tap it. James, you are safe. Heather, you are safe. Brian, you are safe. And Patty, you are safe. Okay, so Julian has nominated George Harrison and Maureen. Julian says, George Harrison, I do not like you at all. Also, Maureen Starkey, it makes sense to nominate you since we don't get along. George Harrison is unfazed, meaning he don't really care either way, and Maureen is very upset. And then, we're back to the veto selections. So Julian, George, and Maureen have to pick who is going to play with them. Julian picks house guest choice and selects John Lennon to participate. Julian is most closely aligned with John Lennon. George picks James to play, and Maureen picks Mary to play. Keeping Up with the Joneses. This is also from season 15. That's bizarre. That's really weird. They have a lot of, season 15 ones in here. Maybe because they're, really memorable or something? Excuse me. Anyway, Keeping Up with the Joneses. The house guests privately enter the backyard to see a trampoline in front of a wall. Behind the wall is another wall with various works of art. They must look at the artwork to recreate the gallery on a separate wall. The house guests to do so in the fastest time will win the golden power of veto. Alright, so Maureen finished last. James finished 5th. Julian finished 4th. And the competition comes down to Mary, George, and John. George finished 3rd. Mary finishes 2nd. And John wins the golden power of veto. Alright, the veto ceremony. George and Maureen state why they should be saved. George says, I am a more loyal player than Maureen. And Maureen says, I am less of a challenge threat than George Harrison. Yeah, that's true. I think she played in the last power of veto too, if I remember right. And again, feel free to make corrections, go back in the video and make corrections, because I'm just reacting based off memory, honestly. I'm doing this all in one go. And my memory's not the best, but I'm pretty sure she played last time and got last as well. Alright, so John's decision. John uses the power of veto on George Harrison, and he says, I know you would do the same for me. John Lennon is in multiple alliances with George Harrison. George Harrison is thankful towards John Lennon. Maureen wishes that John would have decided differently. Julian's decision. Julian names Mary McCartney as the replacement. Mary McCartney, I dislike you. Mary understands. The final nominees are Mary and Maureen. Okay, let's see what happened in the house. Heather Mills flips the mattress on the bed of George Harrison. So yeah, she flips George's bed. And actually, something interesting that's also from season 15. I'm not even kidding. It's from season 15 of the show, the American show anyway. And in the show, it was actually because of racism. This girl who was competing in season 15 was incredibly racist and flipped the bed of players who were black. Just a little fun fact, and season 15 is actually considered the most controversial season of Big Brother. Just a little fun fact about the show. Anyway, due to the mental stress of the game, George Harrison isolates himself from the rest of the house. After borrowing an item from George Harrison, Heather Mills accidentally breaks it. Oh, they're gonna fucking hate each other, dude. James McCartney and Maureen bond slightly. And while having a conversation, James McCartney accidentally makes an inappropriate comment. And I will say, as we go on, some of these are gonna repeat with just somebody else doing it. Mainly because it's just a simulator. Alright, so eviction. Mary and Maureen face eviction. They give speeches about why they should stay. Mary simply just thanks everybody for making stay enjoyable. That sounds so like her. If anybody knows Paul's daughter Mary, that is so her. And then Maureen just gives a casual speech. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna be shocked if Mary walks out the door. Alright, let's just see. No! Oh my god. Brian, I vote to evict Mary. Brian has a better relationship with Maureen. Oh no. George Harrison, I vote to evict Maureen. George Harrison has a better relationship with Mary. Heather Mills, I vote to evict Mary. Heather Mills considers Mary McCartney a greater overall threat. Oh no. James, what do you do? Okay, thank God. James McCartney, I vote to evict Maureen Starkey. James is in an alliance with Mary. Jane. Oh, that's interesting. Jane Asher says, I vote to evict Maureen. However, Jane Asher actually didn't know what to do and threw a vote. Okay then. Alright. John Lennon, I vote to evict Mary McCartney. John considers Mary to be a greater overall threat. Linda, I vote to evict Maureen. Sorry, their names are very similar, especially when you're reading out loud. So Linda voted to evict Maureen. Linda has a better relationship with Mary. Patty voted to evict Maureen. Patty is in an alliance with both of them, but has a stronger alliance with Mary. So she just likes and trusts Mary more. Paul, what are you going to do? Oh, thank God. I would have been so pissed if they made Paul vote Mary out. That would have been awful. Paul voted to evict Maureen. Paul is in an alliance with Mary. And then Stella says, I vote to evict Maureen. And same thing as Patty. I am in an alliance with both, but as more. Oh, so she's in more. Okay. So Patty just likes Mary more, but Stella and Mary are actually working together. So there's a little bit of a difference. And then Yoko voted to evict Mary McCartney. Yoko considers Mary a greater overall threat. Okay, before I say this part, I just want you guys to comment, like while you're watching or at the end, how maybe you would have voted or who you wish could have been nominated. And that's also why I'm kind of doing this video, because like I said, I've done this on my own time hundreds of times. But I'm kind of curious how other people in the fandom would want this to go down. Anyways, yeah, so Mary and Maureen wait for the eviction results. And by a vote of 7-4, Maureen, you have been evicted from the Big Brother house. Maureen Starkey leaves uneventfully. So basically, she just packs her shit and leaves. She doesn't say goodbye to anybody. She just walks out the door. Alright. Week 3. We have 2 people gone already. It goes pretty fast. Excuse me. Alright, so the alliances, okay, so alliance events for this week. Paul and Heather Mills are no longer working together. I kind of knew that was going to happen. That's kind of why I set it up not to be permanent. But I had them as an alliance because I was just curious if the simulator would keep them together. Just because. But I'm glad. And I find it interesting that the simulator did that. And so early, too, because it's only week 3. Alright, so proceed. Alright, Big Brother Disco. So this is another endurance one. They do a lot of endurance things for the head of household. Anyways, the house guests each hang from disco balls. If they fall, they are eliminated. The last house guest remaining on the disco ball is the new head of household. Yoko finishes last. James finished 11th. Jane Asher finished 10th, but tried to throw the challenge. Patty Boyd finishes 9th. Brian Epstein finishes 8th. Stella finishes 7th. George finishes 6th and also tried to throw it. Paul finishes 5th. Heather Mills finishes 4th. The competition comes down to John, Mary, and Linda. Mary finishes 3rd. Linda's 2nd. And John Lennon is the new head of household. My prediction is he's going to do something similar to what Julian did. Very similar. Alright, so let's show the keys. Yoko, you are safe. I love how Yoko's the first one mentioned. Mary, you are safe. James, you are safe. Patty, you're safe. George Harrison, you're safe. Julian, you're safe. Stella, you're safe. Heather, you're safe. Brian, you're safe. Paul, you're safe. Oh, so he nominated Linda. Okay then. John Lennon has nominated Linda Eastman and Jane Asher. So he says, sorry Linda, but we dislike each other, so it's logical to put you on the block. And then Jane's is interesting. It says, we do get along, but I have to do this for my strategy. Okay, so this leads me to explain something else in the game called pawns. And so, in the case of what happened right here, it could be that he put up Jane to possibly save her, to then put someone else that he actually wants out of the house after the power of veto. And if that person that he actually wants out leaves, it's called the back door. Because they can't do anything. They can't save themselves anymore. Or at least it's harder for them. That they can talk to people to get the vote, but it's harder for them to do so. And so, like, in a scenario like this, maybe he put Jane up to get rid of Paul or something. You know, just something like that is what that is. So, Jane might be a pawn. Just considering that he said, we do get along, but I have to do this for my game. And anyway, Linda does not react. She's just unfazed. And Jane Asher didn't want to be nominated, but understands. Yeah, she might be a pawn. She might be in on it, actually. And sometimes pawns are. Sometimes pawns are in on it. And then other times they're not. And usually if they're not, they get really pissed off. But because it said that Jane understood, makes me think that she might be in on it. I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Because even though a lot of this is in my own head, the sim actually gives me a lot to work on, actually. Like, to come up with stuff. And I'm also curious, too, if anybody's watching this and has actually watched the show, do you have ideas of how this game might go on? Alright, so John, Linda, and Jane have to pick who will participate in the POV with them. John chooses Heather Mills. Linda chooses Brian Epstein. And Jane picks Mary. Okay, Power of Veto competition, Pride of Zingbot. Alright, so Zingbot is just a little stupid thing from the show that started in season 12, I think. Yeah, season 12. And he comes in usually at the halfway point. So if this was the real show, it would have happened in like week 6 or something, so a little further into it. But of course, because it's a sim, they're just picking random things. But yeah, he's like a robot that like roasts everybody about things that have happened during the show, and that's why he comes in like halfway through, and then he gives them a competition to do. And anyway, that's what Zingbot is, for people who don't know. Anyway, the house guests enter the backyard to see various blank templates of Zingbot's bride. They must correctly place puzzle pieces on the template until they complete their puzzle. The first house guest to do so will win the power of veto. Linda finishes last, John finished 5th, Mary finished 4th, and the competition comes down to Heather, Jane, and Brian. Brian finishes 3rd, Heather finishes 2nd, and Jane won the golden power of veto. Alright, so she's going to save herself, which is also something that happens. Okay, so, for the nomination, Linda congratulates Jane on winning the veto, and then Jane just says, "It makes sense to save myself." Jane uses the power of veto on herself and says, "I want to stay safe, so John, you must pick a replacement." John Lennon names James McCartney as the replacement and says, "Sorry, James, I like you, but this is a strategy decision." James shakes his head and walks to the replacement chair. Okay. So maybe he's trying to backdoor James? Or maybe he's trying to still get Linda out? This is interesting. It's very fascinating how this kind of makes you think like you're watching the show. At least to me, who's watched it before. Okay. House events. George flips the mattress of Mary. And then John makes an effort to improve relationships in the house. Give peace a chance. Yeah. Alright, voting time. Linda gives a very long speech, and then James gives a casual one. You know, I can't really tell if that's in character for Linda or not. Could be. I don't know. She kind of seems like a soft-spoken person. But anyways, let's see how everybody votes. Brian votes to evict Linda because he has a better relationship with James. George votes to evict James. George has a better relationship with Linda. Heather Mills, I vote to evict James. Heather is in alliance with both, but has more alliances with Linda. Jane says to vote to evict Linda. Jane considers Linda to be a greater overall threat. Julian votes to evict Linda. He considers Linda a greater overall threat. Mary, I vote to evict James. Mary is in alliance with both, but has more alliances with Linda. Patty, I vote to evict James. Patty is in an alliance with Linda. Oh no, here's Paul. Paul, do not vote Linda out. Please don't do it. No! No! Oh my god. Dude! Paul, I vote to evict Linda. No, my god. Paul is in alliance with both, but has stronger alliance with James. Oh my god. What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god. No joke, I have done this so many times, and I've never seen Paul do that until it's like the end. If he ever does. Why is he doing that on week 3? No. Oh my god. That's... wow. Alright, anyway. Let's see what Stella and Yoko do. Stella says she wants to vote to evict James. Stella's in alliance with both, but has a stronger alliance with Linda. And then Yoko... oh, Linda's out of here. Oh my god. Yoko, I vote to evict Linda. Yoko considers Linda a greater overall threat. Oh my god. I'm actually mad about that. Why would you do that? I cannot believe that. Linda's going home, and probably because Paul fucking did that. Oh my god. Oh, it's a tie. Oh no. By a vote of 5-5. So John has to pick. Oh no. John Lennon is HOH. Votes to evict Linda. Oh no. John has a better relationship with James. Oh my god. Ugh, why? What the fuck? Linda, you have been evicted from the Big Brother house. Linda leaves happily. I don't, dude, I'd be, Paul better be ashamed of himself for that. The virtual Paul, not the real one. I know the real one would never do that, but, oh my god. But that's the thing that's fucking weird. Is usually in the simulator he doesn't do that either. What the fuck? This is wild. I know I'm just freaking out over a fucking text thing, but as someone who's like watched the show and then like thinking about it, knowing who Paul and Linda are, is fucking nuts to me. Alright, so the alliances are the same, so I'm gonna skip that. Alright, HOH. Big Brother Barbecue. The house guests enter the backyard to see a 4th of July barbecue setup. They each pair up and they must work together to transport barbecue sauce from one end to the other to fill up their jug and claim a ping pong ball. The first pair to retrieve their ball. Oh, sorry. There we go. Must decide which one of them will become the new head of household. So because they're like in teams, I kind of picture Yoko and Patty as a team, James and Mary as a team, George and Stella as a team, Heather and Jane as this team, Brian and Julian as a team. Wait, that's... Okay, sometimes the sim doesn't understand that there's like an odd number. So yeah, one of them don't have a partner or something, or I'm not reading that right. But anyways, competition comes down to Brian, Julian, and Paul. Third place is Julian. Brian is second. Oh, Paul is the new head of household. Oh, this is gonna get bad. This is gonna get bad. Okay, so George, you're safe. Jane, you're safe. John, you're safe. Patty, you're safe. Julian, you're safe. Heather Mills, you're safe. Mary, you're safe. Stella, you're safe. James, you're safe. Paul nominated Brian Epstein and Yoko Ono. I knew that was coming. I knew if Paul won, he would nominate Yoko. And he says, "Sorry, Brian, but we just like each other, so it's logical to nominate you. Also, Yoko, it just makes sense to me to nominate you since we don't get along." I knew that was going to happen if he ever won. Anyway, Brian doesn't react, and Yoko is very pissed. And so much so, she doesn't even want to speak. Ho ho ho! Yeah, she must be livid. Because, I mean, Yoko's famous for being loud as hell, so... Okay, Paul, Brian, and Yoko must choose the nominees. As nominees, should pick who gets to play. Paul picks John, Brian picks George, and Yoko picks Heather Mills. Alright, power of veto. Big Brother Mint. The house guests enter the backyard to see a cash counting machine. Each round they will be given an amount of money, which they must then collect from various coins that are raining down in the backyard. The house guest that is the farthest away from the given amount will be eliminated. The last house guest remaining in the competition will win the golden power of veto. George finished last, but he tried to throw the challenge. Yoko finished 5th. John finished fourth, but also tried to throw it. And, yeah, for people who don't know, throw means like they lost on purpose. Um, and, I might have said that earlier, but I just wanted to repeat myself for people, just in case I didn't say it. Because sometimes I feel like I'm just reading this, like, people know, but I'm trying to remember to, like, explain things. Anyway, the competition comes down to Paul, Brian, and Heather Mills. Heather Mills finishes third. Brian finishes second. And Paul finishes the Golden Power of Veto. I mean, he wins the Golden Power of Veto. Okay, so Brian and Yoko state why they should be saved, and they both make jokes for a speech. Paul does not use the power of veto. He says, I still support my original nominations. Paul has not changed the reasoning for the original nominations. Brian is very unfazed, and Yoko is very upset. The final nominees are Brian and Yoko. Okay, so John Lennon opens up to Mary McCartney by sharing a personal story. Brian tells a heartfelt story about why he needs the money. And Pattie Boyd and Paul McCartney bond slightly. Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to mention, for those who have never watched the show, while they're in the house for the 90 days, the 3 months, there's like 94 different cameras in every room. They all have to wear microphones 24 hours a day, except for in the shower. I don't think they have to in the shower, but everywhere else they do. And then, there's also microphones in like every corner of the house as well. And it's actually live streamed for big fans of Big Brother to watch 24 hours a day if they want to on like CBS.com or something. I've never done that because if I remember correctly from the commercials, at least back in the 2000s when I watched the show, you had to pay a subscription, Jesus Christ, a subscription, to watch that, so I never did. I just watched the reality show, but yeah, you could totally, like, just watch them like little ants in an experiment if you wanted to. Alright, so anyway, proceed. Yoko and Brian face eviction. They give speeches about why they should stay. Brian thanks everybody for making the stay enjoyable, and Yoko doesn't bother to give a speech. Yoko is pissed the hell off. Alright, let's see how people vote. George votes to evict Yoko. George is in an alliance with Brian. Heather Mills votes to evict Brian. Heather Mills considers Brian a greater overall threat. James, I vote to evict Brian because he has a better relationship with Yoko. Jane votes to evict Brian because she considers Brian to be a greater overall threat. John votes to evict Brian. Oh no! Oh my god. John considers Brian a greater overall threat. Julian, I vote to evict Brian. Julian is in an alliance with Yoko. Mary, I vote to evict Brian. Mary is in an alliance with Yoko. Patty, I vote to evict Brian Epstein. And because she's in an alliance with Yoko. And then Stella, I vote to evict Brian. Stella is in an alliance with Yoko. Oh, wow, by a vote to 8-1. Oh, come on. Brian, you are evicted from the Big Brother house. Brian leaves the house in good spirits. Well, at least everybody seems kind of happy so far. Yeah, so everybody... Oh, I forgot. Ringo's not in the game anymore. Yeah, wow. So, yeah, everybody was happy or thanked everybody or whatever, except for Maureen. I think Maureen was the one that just left, just pissed so far. But everybody else has been pretty happy. Alright, so the alliances did have a change for week 5. The Cavern Club dissolved. So now it's just the Beatles. That's it. And yeah, that's why the Cavern Club dissolved, because Paul had left, and then Brian just, got kicked out. So now it's just the Beatles. that are working together. All right, head of household competition, house guest soup. The house guest must sit in a bathtub filled with water. At a predetermined intervals, buckets filled with various disgusting items will be dumped into the tub. The last house guest standing in the tub will become the new head of household. So it's another endurance. Oh God, what'd I do? Okay, there we go. I don't know what I did there. Anyways, Yoko finished last, James is ninth, Patty's eighth, Mary's 7, Heather Mills is 6th, Stella's 5th, Jane is 4th. The competition comes down to George, John, and Julian. John finishes 3rd, George finishes 2nd, and then Julian Lennon is the head of household again. Yeah, so this is Julian's 2nd time being head of household. Okay, the keys. Heather Mills, you're safe. John, you're safe. Jane Asher, you're safe. Patty Boyd, you're safe. Yoko Ono, you're safe. Stella McCartney, you're safe. James McCartney, you're safe. Paul McCartney, you're safe. Julian Lennon has nominated George Harrison and Mary McCartney. He says, George Harrison, I do not like you at all. And also, Mary, I dislike you. George Harrison has no reaction, and Mary McCartney is unfazed. So they both don't react at all. Alright, so Julian, George, and Mary, as the head of household and nominees, have to pick who's going to be next to play. Alright, oops, I did that in order. Not in order, sorry. Alright, so Julian picked Patty Boyd, George picked Heather Mills, and Mary drawed Jane Asher to participate. Okay, pop goes the veto. The house guests will take turns throwing darts at a wall covered in balloons. While the balloons are predominantly yellow, there are 6 rotating circles with red, green, purple, blue, pink, and orange balloons. Beneath the colored balloons are pictures of the house guests competing in the competition. Once the colored balloons covering the house guest picture have all been completely popped, that house guest is eliminated. The last house guest remaining in the competition will win the power of veto. Alright, so Jane finished last and tried to throw it, and so for that basically means she was just throwing at her own picture on purpose. Patty finished 5th, George finished 4th. The competition comes down to Heather Mills, Julian Lennon, and Mary McCartney. Heather Mills finishes 3rd. She tried to throw it. So she just, took herself out. And then Mary finishes 2nd. And then Julian finished winning the Golden Power of Veto. Although it says he tried to throw it, but he still won. That's interesting. I don't know really how that would work out, but that's interesting. Alright. George and Mary state why they should be saved. George Harrison, I'm a loyal player. Mary, I'm a loyal player. Julian does not use the power of veto. He says, I won't be upset to see either of you leave. Julian has negative relationships with both nominees. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Julian nominate Mary last time and said it was all strategy, like nothing personal? I might be misremembering, but I feel like that's what happened earlier. Anyways, the final nominees are George Harrison and Mary McCartney. Okay. After borrowing an item from Julian Lennon, Stella McCartney accidentally breaks it. George Harrison breaks down and threatens to quit the game. George Harrison tells a heartfelt story about why he needs to have the money. Mary McCartney irrationally lashes out at Stella. And then Patty Boyd finds George Harrison creepy and tells the other house guests. Oh my God, come on. Really? Alright. Eviction voting. George and Mary face eviction. They give speeches about why they should stay. George gives a casual speech and Mary makes a joke. Okay, Heather Mills says, I want to evict George Harrison. Heather Mills considers George Harrison a greater overall threat. James McCartney says, I vote to evict George Harrison. James is in an alliance with Mary McCartney. Jane says, I want to evict George Harrison. Jane considers George to be a greater overall threat. John says, I want to evict George Harrison. John considers George to be a greater overall threat. Patty Boyd, I vote to evict George Harrison. Patty Boyd is in an alliance with both, but has a stronger alliance with Mary McCartney. And I apologize, when I'm reading fast, my mouth wants to say Patty Void when it's Boyd, B-O-Y-D. I apologize for that. I hope you guys understand what I mean when I say void. I mean Boyd. Okay, anyway, Paul says, I want to evict George Harrison. Paul is in an alliance with both, but has a stronger alliance with Mary McCartney. Okay, thank God. I mean, it sucks that he had to vote George out, but I'm glad he did that instead of Mary, because that would have been really fucked up, especially after what happened last time. Okay. And Stella McCartney says, I vote to evict George Harrison. And Stella's in multiple alliances with Mary. And Yoko says, I vote to evict George Harrison. Yoko considers George to be a greater overall threat. I'm gonna have some of my juice. Okay. Okay. George and Mary wait for eviction results. 8-0. George Harrison, you've been evicted from the Big Brother house. George wishes everyone good luck and leaves. Alright, so now the Beatles and Mick Lennon are the same. Because Ringo and George are gone. Girl Power looks to be the same. Wings is the same. And Give Peace a Chance is the same. Alright, Head of Household competition. And we're almost halfway done already with the game. Okay. Who said it? Each house guest holds a cube with faces of their former housemates. The players will be asked a series of questions about various quotes by the evicted house guests while they were in the house, which they will answer by showing the appropriate face on the cube. If they answer incorrectly, they are eliminated. The last player remaining becomes the new head of household. Yoko finished last, Patty finished 8th, Heather Mills 7th, Stella finished 6th but tried to throw it by guessing wrong or something. John finished 5th, Jane finished 4th. The competition comes down to James, Mary, and Paul. Mary finished 3rd. Paul finished 2nd but tried to throw it. So I guess if you were getting 2nd, that means he was getting them all right, and then he made a deal with somebody and then guessed wrong on purpose. And then James, you are the new head of household. Okay, let's see what he does. I'm kind of curious if James is going to do revenge on Paul for voting Linda out. Like, I wonder if he, figured it out. Because sometimes in the show, they figure it out. So, maybe he did. Anyway, Julian, you are safe. Stella, you are safe. Heather Mills, you are safe. Jane Asher, you are safe. Paul McCartney, you are safe. Okay. Mary, you are safe. Come on. Yoko, you are safe. James has nominated Patty Boyd and John Lennon. Patty Boyd, I do not like you at all. Sorry, John Lennon, I haven't talked any game with you. Patty Boyd is unfazed, and John Lennon is slightly upset. Alright. James, Patty, and John will pick who's going to participate. Oh, and I wanted to say, when we get down to where there's less than 6 people, this part of the game will not be in there, because, 6 people, and if you notice, every power veto, there's only 6 players. So once we get down to, the end, everybody just plays. Anyway, James draws Jane Asher to participate. Patty Boyd draws House Guest Choice and selects Stella to participate. Patty is most aligned with Stella. And John draws Julian Lennon to participate. Okay. So, the power veto, Otev, the absent-minded alien. Alright, so Otev is a yearly thing, kind of like the Zingbot, but instead it's like a thing that sings or does riddles, and I think it'll explain a little bit. If it doesn't, I'll explain more, but it's kind of like musical chairs. So after every round, they take a chair away, and whoever's last, the last one remaining after all the chairs are taken away wins. It's kind of how it goes. Alright, so the house guests kneel in front of a giant alien. Each round, they will give them a hint. The alien will give them a hint to a certain evicted house guest, whose name they must find on a stalk of corn. The last house guest to return with the correct corn stalk is eliminated. The last house guest remaining will win the golden power veto. So yeah, they have to find this thing that the statue wants, and they all go up there. But so let's say there's 6 people running up. They'll run up, but there's only going to be 5 chairs. Kind of like that. Okay, so Patty finishes last. Julian finishes 5th. Jane finishes 4th. The competition comes down to Stella, James, and John. John finishes 3rd. Stella finishes 2nd. And James has won the golden power of veto. Patty and John state why they should be saved. Patty just congratulates James for winning the veto, and John gives a long speech. James does not use the power of veto, saying, "I still support my original decisions." Patty has no reaction, and John is a little upset. Alright. Mary McCartney irrationally lashes out at Patty Boyd. Julian earns some extra money for this week's budget in a task. And the ego of Jane Asher is rubbing the house the wrong way. That's interesting. Alright, so I want to comment on Julian's thing right here. I remember in the very old seasons, they had random tasks that they have someone random that's not really doing anything this week, to, do random tasks for food. But in the newer episodes, I think producers and stuff behind the scenes just provide them food, just provide it to them. I could be wrong about that. If anybody else watches Big Brother and finds this interesting, comment down what you know, especially if you still watch it, because I'm basing off season 3 to season 15 is kind of what I watched. So 2002 to 2016, 15, somewhere in that bracket is kind of when I watched it, really. So yeah. I still find the concept interesting, the basic core concept, what this stimulator is based off of, but the show, just, for popularity's sake, and relevance on television's sake has changed so much, and I don't really care for it, but the basic game like this, I still like. Anyways, let's press on. Patty and John face eviction, and they give speeches about why they should stay. Patty gives a casual speech, and John gives a short speech to get the voting. The house guests vote. Heather Mills says, I want to evict John Lennon. Heather Mills considers John Lennon to be a greater overall threat. Jane Asher, I vote to evict John Lennon. Jane is in an alliance with Patty Boyd. Julian, I vote to evict Patty Boyd. Julian has an unbreakable relationship with John. Okay, good to know. Mary says, I vote to evict John Lennon. Mary is in an alliance with Patty Boyd. Oh my God. Paul McCartney says, I vote to evict John Lennon. Paul McCartney considers John to be a greater overall threat. Wow. Wow. It's not as crazy as the Linda one, because that was fucking not cool, honestly. But that's still insane. Alright, so Stella says, I vote to evict John. Stella is in an alliance with Patty Boyd. And then Yoko says, I vote to evict John. Really? Huh. Yoko is in an alliance with both, but has a stronger alliance with Patty. Okay, so, by a vote of 6-1, John Lennon, you have been evicted from the Big Brother house. John wishes everyone good luck and leaves the house. But I guess because he was pretty pissed, I bet he did it pretty quickly. Like, good luck, guys, bye. Like that. Like, not heartfelt. Like, I feel like the others who did that, like, I think Ringo did that. Like, he left in good spirits or something. Like, I feel like if it was actually the show, Ringo would have went up to, like, Paul or something and been like, you can do this, bro. You know what I mean? Like that. But I think John, like, in theory, would kind of do that pretty quick. Like, good luck, guys, bye. Anyway. Okay. Okay, so McLennan is over. Because John's gone, too, now. Okay, so... Alright, never mind. I almost said that Paul didn't have an alliance, but he does. But he's almost gonna be alone here. And I can't tell... I think everybody in the game still is in an alliance of some form. I think. Alright. Head of household. Big Brother, Blackjack. The house guests take turns launching a ball into a field of playing cards. They have 5 shots each round. Their goal is to land it on the cards that add up to 21 in the fewest amount of shots. The house guest who took the most shots each round is eliminated. Alright, so Mary McCartney last place and tried to throw it. So if this was the show, I feel like she would just purposely try to throw it towards the biggest numbers. Or just do it like shitty or something like that. Yoko finished 7th, Jane 6th, Patty 5th, Heather Mills 4th. Paul, Stella, and Julian is what it comes down to. Stella finishes 3rd, Julian finishes 2nd, and Paul is the new head of household. Alright, Paul begins the nomination ceremony. Alright, so Mary, you are safe. Jane, you are safe. Stella, you are safe. James, you are safe. Patty Boyd, you are safe. Heather Mills, you are safe. Come on, show me the thing. Paul has nominated Yoko Ono and Julian Lennon. I knew Yoko would be up there again. Every time Paul wins, Yoko's gonna be up there till she's gone. And And yep, that's what he says. Yoko Ono, sorry, but we just like each other, so it's logical to put you up. And also, Julian, we get along, but I have to do this for my strategy. Alright, so, yeah, so I feel like Paul is actively trying to get Yoko out. Alright, so Paul, Yoko, and Julian have to draw who's gonna play. Paul picks Heather Mills. Yoko picks Stella. And Julian picks Patty Boyd. Alright, Power of Veto, Sweet Dreams, Honey. House guests enter the backyard where they see a large lake of honey underneath a wooden bridge. At the front of this lake are different colored jars, and at the end of the lake is an enormous bed covered in hundreds of pillows. The first guest to collect 6 veto bears, also teddy bears, that are in the lake, I assume. Oh, they're hidden in the pillows. Sorry, I forgot to finish reading. That are hidden inside the colored pillows. We'll place them in the glass jars. Okay, so they're like little cereal box toys they have to find, I think is what it is. Some of them, like this one, it doesn't really make sense unless you're like seeing it on the show. So yeah, they have to. If I'm understanding this right, what's happening is they have to find in these like pillowcases or whatever, little like plastic cereal box toys from like the 1980s or something, and then crawl through this honey to put them in a jar, like on the other side. So it's kind of like the gym game Capture the Flag, I think, is kind of what it's like. But instead of stealing from other people, you just got to get your own. Alright, so, Patty finished last. Yoko finished 5th. Stella finished 4th. Paul, Heather, and Julian is who it comes down to. Paul finishes 3rd. Heather Mills finishes 2nd. And Julian has won the Golden Power of Veto. Alright. Oh yeah, so he's a nominee, so he's gonna save himself, obviously. So Yoko just gives a casual speech, and Julian just says, it makes sense to save myself. Yeah. Alright, so Julian uses the power of veto on himself, and he wants to be safe for eviction. Paul names Patty Boyd as the replacement. And he says, sorry, Patty, I like you, but this is a strategy decision. Patty doesn't mind. And the final nominees are Yoko Ono and Patty Boyd. Alright. House events for this week. Mary and Jane get into a heated argument. Oh, I thought I removed that. Fuck. A banner flies over reading James McCartney is not to be trusted. I thought I disabled that. I hate that one. It was so stupid when it was in the show too. It literally did nothing. it literally did nothing in the game. Like, it was so stupid. Anyway, Patty and Stella bond extremely well. Alright, so they face eviction, Yoko and Patty, and Yoko says, I'm less of a challenge threat than Patty. Okay, so in my memory of this so far, Patty hasn't really competed much, and if she did, she hasn't done that well. And anyway, Patty thanks everyone for making their stay enjoyable. The house guests vote. Heather Mills says, I vote to evict Patty Boyd. Heather Mills considers Patty to be greater overall threat. James says, I vote to evict Patty because he has a better relationship with Yoko. Jane says, I vote to evict Patty because she has a better relationship with Yoko. Julian, I vote to evict Patty Boyd. He's in an alliance with Yoko. Mary says, I vote to evict Patty. Mary has a better relationship with Yoko. And Stella, I vote to evict Yoko. Because I have a better relationship with Patty. Okay. By a vote of 5-1, Patty Boyd, you've been evicted from the game, Big Brother House. Patty wishes everyone good luck and leaves. Alright, week 8. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people left. Alright, so we're getting down to the nitty gritty. And Alliance events, Yoko Ono has left Girl Power. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, Yoko's on her own now. Not really working with anybody, at least not closely. Alright, head of household, I have a secret. Each house guest has a mirror image standing next to a small platform. While standing on the platform, each house guest must hold one hand over the button on their identical counterpart's mouth. If they release the button, they will be eliminated from the competition. The last house guest remaining in the competition will become the new head of household. Yoko finishes last. Stella finishes 6th. Mary finishes 5th. James finishes 4th. And the competition comes down to Julian, Jane, and Heather Mills. Jane finishes 3rd. Come on. Heather Mills finishes 2nd. And Julian, you are the head of household. So this is Julian's... It's got to be at least his 2nd, but I think it's his 3rd time. Yeah, I think it's Julian's 3rd time being head of household in this. Yeah, I know he's done it at least once. That I know, but I think he's done it twice now. Alright, let's see who is safe. Yoko, you're safe. Paul, you're safe. Jane, you're safe. Stella, you're safe. And James, you're safe. Wait a minute. I gotta go. Okay, oops. I didn't want to go back. I just kind of wanted it to feel like the show. Okay, James finished 4th. Okay, because I got confused because I was like, didn't James get evicted? Right? But I guess not. I don't know, my brain is turning off. It's midnight over here, so. Anyway, nominees. I'm not going to show the keys again because I already went through it. Alright, so Julian has nominated Mary McCartney and Heather Mills. Mary, I do not like you at all. Also, Heather Mills, I dislike you. Mary McCartney is unfazed. Heather Mills is very upset. Alright, so Heather, Mary, and Julian are going to pick who's going to participate. And I believe, I don't know if it's this one, it might be the next week, but we're getting to the point where everybody has to play. Anyway, Julian picks James. Mary picks Stella. And Heather picks Jane. Okay, so power of veto, license to veto. The house guests each stand at their respective colored podiums in front of a garage door. Each round the garage door will rise. Various state license plates will be shown. They must find the license plates that combine to make a word related to the Big Brother game. So they have to find the word veto, or the word power, or the word money, or something like that. If they are certain they have found the correct license plates, they will honk their horns to give the correct answer and earn a certain amount of points. If they answer incorrectly, they are eliminated. The house guest with the most points at the end will win the power of veto. Jane finishes last. Mary finishes 5th. James finishes 4th. And the competition comes down to Stella, Julian, and Heather Mills. Julian finishes 3rd. Heather Mills finishes 2nd. And Stella, you have won the golden power veto. Alright, so Mary says, I am a more loyal player than Heather Mills, and Heather Mills makes a joke for a speech. Stella does not use the power of veto. Stella says, I like you, Heather Mills, but I would like to see Mary McCartney leave, and I will keep the nominees the same to accomplish that. Okay, so Stella's playing dirty just like Paul. I see how it is. Stella has a decent relationship with Heather Mills, but dislikes Mary McCartney. Well, now you know the game don't know them for shit. Because it should be the other way around. But anyways, Mary has no reaction. Heather Mills is too angry to speak. The final nominees are Mary McCartney and Heather Mills. Okay, so Julian holds a house meeting to apologize for his behavior in the house. It is well received. James finds Jane Asher creepy and tells the other house guests. Jane and Mary bond. Yeah, my fingers do not want to tap the little things sometimes. It's honestly kind of annoying. Anyway, at the eviction, they give speeches. Mary says, I'm more of a loyal player than Heather Mills, and Heather makes a joke again. Alright, James, I vote to evict Heather Mills. James is in alliance with both, but has the stronger alliance with Mary. Jane, I vote to evict Heather Mills. Jane considers Heather Mills a greater overall threat. Paul, I vote to evict Heather Mills. Paul considers Heather Mills a greater overall threat. Stella, I vote to evict Mary McCartney. Stella is in alliance with both, but has the stronger alliance with Heather Mills. That's insane. And Yoko Ono, I vote to evict Heather Mills. Yoko has a better relationship with Mary. By a vote to 4-1, Heather Mills, you have been evicted from the Big Brother house. Heather Mills leaves without saying a word. Yeah, that seems pretty in character, I would say. Alright, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people left. So yeah, I think this one, week 9, is the last one where they have to do drawing. And then after that, everybody has to do it, because there's only going to be like 6 people left. Alright, so those are the alliances. They're pretty much the same. Oh wait, no, never mind. So last time in week 8, I said that Yoko was working alone. That's not true. She still has Julian. She just left girl power, is what happened. Alright, HOH Big Opportunity. Another one from season 15 of the show. Okay, so the house guests enter the Easter-themed backyard with their feet tied together. They must maneuver an Easter egg through the chicken wire to get it out. They then must hop it over to the other side to place it down. The first house guest to collect 12 eggs will become the head of household. In addition, the house guests who have collected the least amount of eggs at the end will wear a chicken suit for part of the week. Oh yeah, so in the show sometimes, if you lose, like in that bull thing that happened way back at the beginning of the video, some of the prizes like in the boxes will actually be punishments, and they have to wear like crazy outfits. Like one time in season 11, this one girl had to wear something called a dunce tard or something, and so she had like a propeller hat or a dunce cap or something, and then like a weird tutu, and there was another one where it's like a clowny tard, where it's like a clown outfit and stuff. They use the word tard because of the word lunatard or unitard, whatever. It's like that thing that you wear for like gymnastics. It's a play on that. I'm not in gymnastics, so I don't know the term. I should, because my sister was in it, but leotard. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, it's a play on whatever that thing is called. Anyway, Yoko finishes last. Jane finishes fifth. James finishes. Yeah, so Jane Asher, sorry. Jane Asher finished fifth. James McCartney finished fourth. And the competition comes down to Mary, Stella, and Paul. Paul finishes third. Stella finishes second. And Mary, you have won the head of household. And I don't know if I'm right, but I'm pretty sure I am. I think this is Mary's first time winning any competition. So good on you, Mary, for winning that. Okay, so Mary begins the nomination ceremony. James, you are safe. Jane, you are safe. Stella, you are safe. Paul, you are safe. Mary has nominated Yoko Ono and Julian Lennon. Sorry, I'm full of burps. I took my omeprazole, but I think I ate something that my stomach don't really want to agree with. Anyway, Mary says, Yoko Ono, I don't like you at all. Julian Lennon, I feel less close to you than the others. That's an interesting reason. I don't think I've ever seen that one before. Alright, so Yoko is very upset and Julian has no reaction. Alright, so let's see who they pick. Mary picks Paul. Yoko chooses house guest choice and selects James to participate because they have the best relationship, and Julian draws Jane. Alright, power of veto. Haunted yard. The house guests enter the backyard to see various spooky displays of different items. Each round, they must estimate how much of a certain item there is in the backyard. They can choose either to stay or fold, which could either result in them being eliminated or earning a point, or simply moving on to the next round. The house guest that earns 3 points in the first or last house guest. Okay, that's worded weird. I'm sorry if that one's confusing. Okay, so basically they have to count things, like make a bet basically if they're right. And if they fold, they basically just they don't trust their guests, and so they can move on until it's the end. And so like when it's the end, when there's just 2 players left, it doesn't matter, I think is what they're trying to say. And then it's just whoever's closest wins, I think, without going over. And so I'm just opening these now because I'm trying to wrap this up here, and it's already a very long video, so I want to finish, but I'm getting to the point where I want to speed it up here. Alright, so Yoko finished last, Jane finished 5th, Julian finished 4th. The competition comes down to Mary, James, and Paul. Mary finishes 3rd, James finishes 2nd, and congratulations, Paul, you have won the golden power veto. Alright, Yoko and Julian state why they should be saved. Yoko doesn't bother to give a speech, and then Julian, I am more of a loyal player. Paul uses the golden power of veto on Julian, saying, I get along pretty well with Julian. And it says Paul has a good relationship with Julian. Yoko wishes that Paul decided differently. Julian is thankful towards Paul. Mary names Jane Asher as the replacement and says, I apologize, Jane Asher. I know we talked alliances, but I've never really liked you. Jane doesn't look too upset. And the final nominees are Yoko and Jane. House events. Julian and James bond extremely well. Julian invents a new game. The house is thrilled to have something new to do. Alright, so that's something from like the very, 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 very early years of the show. And, I don't even really know how to explain it. I think it was just a weird thing that happened in between episodes of the show, if nothing else was going on, and they pretty much got rid of it after like a couple seasons, I think. Like, it was very early on. But like I said, this is just randomly based off the basic game. Alright, come on, proceed. There we go. Alright, eviction voting again. Yoko and Jane face eviction. And Yoko gives a long speech, and Jane simply thanks everyone for making this day enjoyable. Okay, so James says, I want to vote out Yoko. James is in an alliance with Jane. Julian, I vote to evict Jane Asher. Julian considers Jane the greater overall threat. Paul votes to evict Jane. Paul considers Jane to be a greater overall threat. And Stella says, I vote to evict Yoko. Stella is in multiple alliances with Jane Asher. Alright, so, let's see how this goes. Oh, it's a tie again. Vote of 2-2. There's a tie. Mary, as head of household, you must vote. And she says she wants to vote Yoko. Mary is in multiple alliances with Jane Asher. Yoko leaves the house without saying a word. Alright, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people left. We're getting down to the wire. And for alliance events, Stella leaves girl power. Alright, head of household in the house. The house guests are given a series of prompts representing various rooms throughout the Big Brother house. After being asked a trivia question about the house, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I keep burping. House guests will hold up the prop that represents the correct room. If they answer incorrectly, they are eliminated. The last house guest standing becomes the new head of household. Jane finishes last. James McCartney finishes fourth. Competition comes down to Stella, Paul, and Julian. Julian finishes third. Paul finishes second. And Stella, you are the new head of household. James, you are safe. Paul, you are safe. And Jane, you are safe. Stella's nominated Julian and Mary, saying, sorry, Julian, I like you, but we don't talk game. I apologize, Mary McCartney, I know we talked alliances, but I've never really liked you. Julian is unfazed, and Mary has no reaction. So they kind of just behave the same. Alright, yeah, so it says, everyone left will participate because there's only 6 people. So participating are James, Jane, and Paul. Alright, communication breakdown for Power of Veto. The house guests enter the backyard to see wooden telephone poles. Each guest must correctly connect wires of different lengths to various telephone poles. The first guest to do so will win. Alright, Stella finishes last. Julian gets 5th. James is 4th. The competition comes down to Paul, Jane, and Mary. Paul finishes 3rd. Mary finishes 2nd. And Jane has won. Alright, they give speeches. Julian says, I am a loyal player. And Mary gives a casual speech. And Jane says, I'm going to save Mary, saying, I know you would do the same for me. And Jane is in multiple alliances with Mary. Julian wishes that Jane Asher decided differently. Mary is thankful towards Jane. Stella McCartney names James as the replacement and says, I'm really sorry, James, but it's time to make a big move and put you on the block. I hope you leave. Damn, she is not subtle with that. James understands. So, the final nominees are Julian and James. Mary flips the mattress on the bed of James. Alright, Julian and James face eviction. They give speeches. Julian gives a casual speech, and James gives a long one. Alright, Jane says, I vote to evict Julian. Jane considers Julian to be a greater overall threat. Mary says, I vote to evict Julian because I'm in an alliance with James. And Paul says, I vote to evict James, saying he has an unbreakable bond with Julian. So Paul's just heartless. He kicked out Linda for sure. John, yeah, I think he was the one that made John go home. And he voted against Jane once, I think. Jane Asher once. I don't know. The only one I really remember was Linda, because that was just fucking insane. That genuinely broke my mind. Anyway, by a vote of 2-1, Julian, you've been evicted from the Big Brother house. Julian wishes everyone good luck and leaves. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Girl power is no more. Alright, HOH, everything in threes. The house guests are randomly divided into groups of 3. Well, that's kind of weird because there's only 5 left, but okay. Where they will compete against each other in multiple rounds of questions. When a house guest answers a question correctly, the other players in their group are eliminated. An incorrect answer also results in elimination. The last player remaining becomes the winner. Jane finishes last. The competition comes down to Mary, Paul, and James. Paul finishes 3rd. James finishes 2nd. And Mary finishes as the winner. That's Mary's 2nd time, I think. So, if you guys are paying attention, when the week starts, when it shows the memory wall, it does show, actually, I'm just going to go back. Oh yeah, so, I really didn't want to go back, because I kind of just want to get through it, but, I'm just doing this to explain, and see where we are. So yeah, Paul has won 2 HOHs and 2 POVs. Stella has won 1 of each. Mary has won 1 HOH, so this will be her 2nd. James has won 2 of each, and Jane Asher has won 2 of each. And then you can see how the other players did as well. Alright. Oh, okay, sorry. So Mary says she had to nominate Jane and Stella. I'm really sorry, Jane, but it's time to make a big move and put you on the block. I hope you leave. She's not being subtle. And I apologize, Stella. I know we talk alliances, but I've never really liked you. Well, at least it's mutual. Jane doesn't want to be nominated, but understands, and Stella's too angry to speak. Everyone's going to participate. POV, couch potato. The house guests enter the backyard to see 6 colored TVs surrounding 2 spinning couches. The couches are buckets of balls, The house guests must toss their balls at their TVs to hit buttons that will turn them on and change the channel. The first house guest to get their TV to channel 5 will win the power veto. So it's kind of like darts, but you have to hit it like 5 times. Alright, so James finished last. Jane Asher finished 4th. The competition comes down to Paul, Mary, and Stella. Stella finishes 3rd. Mary finishes 2nd. And Paul finishes as the winner. Jane gives a casual speech. Stella gives a long speech. Paul does not use the power of veto, saying, "I won't be upset to see either of you leave." Paul has negative relationships with both. Oh my god. Jane Asher slightly upset, and Stella is too angry to speak. The final nominees are Jane and Stella. Stella opens up to Jane Asher by sharing a personal story. Due to the mental stress of the game, Mary isolates herself from the rest of the house. So at eviction, Jane gives a short speech to get the voting. Stella doesn't bother to give a speech. James votes to evict Jane because he has a better relationship with Stella. And Paul votes to evict Stella. Jesus Christ, he just is all over the place. Yeah, because he's in alliance with both, but has a stronger alliance with Jane, apparently. Alright. Alright, so a vote to 1-1. It's a tie. Mary, as HOH says, to vote Jane Asher out. Mary is in alliance with both, but has a stronger alliance with Stella. Alright, so they don't like each other, but they're working together. That's interesting. I don't know what to think of that. So yeah, Jane, you've been evicted, and Jane Asher leaves the house uneventfully. So she just grabs her stuff and leaves, pretty much. Alright, 4 left. James, Mary, Stella, and Paul. Who's gonna win the Big Brother game? Alright, that's it. Wings is the only alliance left. Getting down to the nitty-gritty, and if you look at the week chart on the side here, is this week and then the final HOH, and that's kind of a whole different thing. I'll explain a little bit more when we get to it. But anyway, dearly departed. The house guests are asked questions about statements made by evicted contestants regarding their time in the house. The answer will be one of 2 choices, and a video clip showing the evicted house guest's true statement will be shown after each question. The player with the most points at the end of the competition will become the new head of household. Alright, so the competition comes down to Paul, Stella, and James. Stella gets 3rd, James gets 2nd, and Paul, you are the new head of household. Alright, so the only person that's safe is Mary. And the nominees are James and Stella, obviously, because they're the only ones left that can be. And Paul says, "I'm really sorry, James, but it's time to make a big move to put you on the block. I hope you leave. And I apologize, Stella, I know we talked alliances, but I've never really liked you." James has no reaction, and Stella is very upset. Everyone will participate. Alright, sock it to me as power of veto. Set up in the backyard are portraits of each week's head of household. It's like pictures of Julian and Paul and, so on and so forth. Power veto winner and nominees. Using a series of circuits, the competitors must connect all of the veto winners in order from first to last. They must then pull a switch. If the portrait of the veto winners light up, the challenge has been successfully completed. And then the house guests to complete the challenge with the quickest time will win. James finishes last. And let's see, Mary gets 2nd, Stella gets 3rd, and then Paul wins. Alright, so James and Stella Oh, excuse me. I am so sorry. I am very full of burps. Ugh. I don't know why my med's not working. Anyways, it says James is a loyal player and Stella makes a joke. Paul does not use the power of veto, saying, I won't be upset to see either of you leave. And James is unfazed, and Stella's too angry to speak. Final nominees are James and Stella. Stella finds Mary creepy and tells the other house guests. They give their speeches. I am a loyal player, says both of them. And Mary says, I vote to evict Stella. Mary is in alliance with both, but has a stronger alliance with James. By a vote to 1-0, Stella, you have been evicted from the Big Brother house. Stella gives an explosive speech and storms out of the house. Alright, so the final HOH. So what happens is, basically, the final three compete. And then whoever wins this one does not have to compete in part 2. And then whoever wins part 2 will go against whoever won this one in part 3. Alright, so, the greatest skate. The final 3 house guests must hang on a rope that will drag them across a skating rink. If they slip on the course, they are eliminated. The last house guest standing wins, and wins part 1 of the final HOH to advance to level 3. Alright, so James finishes 3rd, Mary finishes 2nd, and Paul wins part 1. So meaning Paul does not have to compete in part 2. And whoever wins part 2 has to go against him. Alright, so crab grab for part 2. The losers of part 1 must search through scattered crabs for those with evicted house guest names on them. They must find all 13 or more. Are there 13? I don't know. I think that's just based on whatever season it is, I think. I'm not really sure. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, put them in the correct order by climbing a wall and then attaching them to a large ship. The house guest with the fastest time wins part 2 and gets to compete against Paul in part 3. James and Mary compete, and Mary wins part 2. Jury statements. Alright, so, if anybody's ever watched this show, or if you haven't, maybe you've watched Survivor, at like the halfway point, the players don't go home. They go to like this, sequester house where they're like away from society still. And they're just kind of waited on hand and foot by like the producers. Sometimes they talk to psychiatrists, especially with this game, because, they're isolated for nearly 90 days or more. And so they're kind of just given kind of like therapy and different things to kind of acclimate them back to normal life. Because Big Brother very much is a social experiment. And so they kind of need to do that. And they also get to determine out of these last final two people who wins based on loyalty, competition, etc., etc. Okay, so jury statements. The house guests each sit in their individual booths in the living room. Each round, Julie Chen, who is the host of the show, will read the beginning of a statement, and the house guests must decide how a certain juror completed each statement. If they are correct, they earn a point. The house guest with the most points at the end becomes the final and most important head of household. If I remember correctly, in the show, I think it's whoever gets to 6 points first. I think. Or maybe they increase it depending on how many's in the jury. But if I remember correctly, I think it's like 6. Alright. And it looks like Paul won, so Paul is the head of household. Alright, so this eviction voting works a little different. So through all the other weeks, the other players vote. But in the end, the head of household gets to vote, and that's it. So at the end, it gets a little different. So that's kind of why you have to, like, socialize and make friends. So when it gets to this point, hopefully the head of household likes you to keep you and not pull you out. Anyway, James and Mary face eviction. They give speeches about why they should stay. James gives a casual speech, and Mary says, "I've played a more loyal game than James." Paul votes to say, "I vote to evict James McCartney." Paul strategically evicted James due to having a better challenge game. I don't know about that. I know James won a little bit, but not that much. I don't think he was that good. I mean, he was better than Mary, yeah, but I don't know, that's interesting. Alright, by a vote of 1-0, James, you are evicted from the Big Brother house and becomes the final jury member, as he leaves and wishes everyone good luck and leaves. And yeah, usually at that point, when they do the final voting like that, they always, like, no one ever gets mad because they're just so fucking close, and it's usually a live event. So, you don't want to have a freak out, on live television. So, I mean, all the evictions are live, but, like, the final one, their family's there, outside of the house, watching on a monitor, like, your family's there watching you, instead of watching at home or whatever. So that's something I just wanted to make a note. Alright, so the final two are Paul and Mary. Father and daughter. That's interesting because Big Brother 8 actually had a father and daughter relationship. Evil Dick was his name, and his daughter Danielle. And they let Evil Dick win because everybody hated his daughter Danielle because she was like a spoiled, whiny bitch, pretty much. But the jury even said, like, I don't like either of them. So I would love it if it was like this, a Paul and Mary situation, where, like, it was hard to pick because they were so likable. I think that'd be interesting, because it would just be like, who do I pick? They're both amazing, So that would be interesting to see in the real show one of these days. Alright, so now they have to give speeches to the jury and explain why they deserve to win. And the jury consists of James McCartney, Stella McCartney, Jane Asher, Julian Lennon, Yoko Ono, Heather Mills, and Patty Boyd. Because they were, like, evicted in the halfway point. Anyway, Mary says, I deserve to win because I played a more loyal game. I was saved with one veto one time, and I survived despite being nominated 5 times. Jesus Christ, my ability to read is going away. Anyway, Paul says I deserve to win because I had a better strategy to the game. I performed better on challenges, I won 8 overall challenges, and I had a better social game, and I was not nominated the entire game. Yeah, he wasn't. Good point. That's a really good point. And I did not receive a vote the entire game. Well, obviously, because you weren't fucking nominated. Anyway. Alright, let's see what the jury says. James says, I vote for Paul to win. James supports Paul to win due to a more loyal game. Stella says, I vote for Paul to win because she really wants Mary to lose. That's interesting. Alright. Jane Asher says, I vote for Paul McCartney to win because I really want Mary to lose. Again, Mary McCartney, if you ever come across this video, take this with a grain of salt. Heaping bowls of salt. It's just a game. I didn't make it do that. I could have, but I didn't play with the relationships at all. Just the alliances and their ability to play is all I did. It's all in good fun. No harm meant to anybody. It's just fandom fun. But that's just really sad that Stella and Jane would say that. That's horrible. Alright, Julian says, I vote for Paul to win. Well, he's winning. Because he says, I support Paul due to an unbreakable relationship. Yoko says, Paul deserves to win. Okay then. Yoko Ono thought that Paul McCartney deserved to win based on strategy. Heather Mills says, I vote for Paul to win. Heather Mills thought that Paul deserved to win based on challenges. And Patty Boyd says, I vote to have Paul win. And Patty just really wants Mary to lose. Alright, so Paul's like the Dan Giesling of this. For those who don't know, Dan Giesling was on the real show, Big Brother 10. And he was famous for being the first person to win unanimously. Everybody in the jury voted for him to win, just like this. And he's considered to be the best Big Brother player, at least in the American version, of all time. And so much so that he came back as a coach in season 14, and he was at the final game again, final two. And I think he's the first, well, actually, I might be wrong about that. But he was, for a long time, the first and only person to make it to the final two twice as a returning player. But I think, I might be wrong about it, but I think Dan still holds the record as the only player with a unanimous vote. Still. Some people have gotten close, but I think he's the only one that still has ever done it. But if anybody watches the newer seasons of Big Brother, let me know if that's changed. But I do know for sure that Dan was the first to have it done. Alright, by a vote 7-0. Congratulations, Paul. You are the winner of Big Brother. Yay! I mean, he played a good game. He won. I guess he knew what he was doing. Alright, and then, oh yeah, there's also this thing where every player in the game gets to be decided by America, by phone and text and stuff vote, who is the fan favorite. And then the fan favorite, I think, gets $25,000 or something. Like, it's a pretty good amount of money, but it's significantly less than the actual winner. Anyway, fan favorite comes down to James, Julian, and Stella. Third, oh, James got the least votes. So nobody really liked James, okay. Stella got the second most votes. And Julian is the fan favorite. Paul is the winner, and those are the statistics. There we go, and that's just the popularity. So that kind of plays into how the voting was actually decided. Come on. And then here's just kind of a rundown of what happened. Oh wait, go back. Alright, so there you can go. You can see who won and whatnot. But thank you guys. This was really fun to make. I apologize if I started to lose some steam halfway through, but it takes a long time to do this, especially if you have to read everything out loud and explain stuff. That was fun. I might do this again at some other point with other fandoms that I'm into, like the Olsen twins, maybe Melanie Martinez or Jasmine Bean, and, like old fandoms like YouTubers and whatnot. But it was fun to do this with the Beatles, and maybe I'll add other people like Heather McCartney, Zach Starkey, Barbara Bach, Nancy Chevelle, or maybe just switch it around, or maybe just do it with just the Beatles, just a final four and see what happens. That was fun. Thank you guys for watching.